Hi, this is Jeff. I'm at Carleton University, part of Earth Sciences. You're probably watching this video because you're about to head off to a field school. And I just wanted to put together this video as a sort of a substitute for something that I usually do during, before heading out into the field with students who haven't mapped before, and that's just showing you guys what I put in my day pack and as a geologist. And it's important to note that this day pack is not a pack that I use for backpacking or packing my clothes to go on trips or anything like this. This is a pack that I have in my office or at home, and it has just my geology field gear that I need on a daily basis. So heading out from any kind of base camp, whether it's from a vehicle on a day trip, whether it's from a helicopter, whether it's from a camp location, or what have you. This is my geology pack. This is the stuff that I carry every single day, regardless of location. I'll carry this stuff when I'm in the Mojave Desert. I'll carry this stuff when I'm in the High Sierra or the Coast Mountains of British Columbia, or I'll carry it when I'm, again, on a day trip in the Ottawa area or wherever. Okay, it's something that is good to have at a moment's notice. I can be ready to do geology. It's also just kind of a guide for what you guys should expect to carry in your pack. Some of the stuff may or may not be appropriate for you guys. Again, I'm often in a position of responsibility for numerous students, so I have a wealth of first aid kit with me. But nevertheless, most of this gear is appropriate for you. So let's just take a look. I unloaded this pack recently. Here's my pack. So you can see it's a large pack, something like it's a 65 liter plus 10. And again, this is a day pack. Most people would use this size of a pack for a backpacking trip or something like that. But this is filled with just geology gear, and it has enough space that I can put in samples, several samples. I've had as many as 3 geochronology samples, which are generally pretty large and voluminous in this pack. This pack's actually getting pretty beat down. So I'm just going to put this down here and just start unloading the gear, and I'll explain what most of this gear is used for as I go through. So I'll sort of start with the main pack that I have in here. Of course, I do store some of my geology kit that I bring with me that would normally go on my belt. So here's my field belt. As you can see on my field belt, I've got a field pouch, which is this one right here. I'll show you what's in that in a second. I've got a Brunton compass, and I've also got an acid bottle holder. And I'll often either put my camera, attach my camera to this, or usually just a camera. In my field pouch, you'll see that I've got a chisel, I've got a magnet. All right, this is actually a magnet plus a scribe. It's a silicon carbide scribe on there. I've got a pencil. I usually have a couple pencils and a marker in here. I've also got a ruler with a protractor on that for putting strikes and dips on maps. I've got a field book here. And I've also got a Douglas protractor in here, as you can see, as well as a set of, I'm not going to pull these out, but I've got also in here a set of colored pencils, a dozen or so colored pencils. There's a pink one, I'm not going to pull the rest of. Okay, so this is the stuff that is actually worn on my belt so that I have easy access to it as I'm walking around in the field. A couple other things I have in here that I normally wouldn't actually carry inside the pack. I have my map board, okay, with a map from, where the heck is it, Montana, in here right now. This is just a simple map board. It's got a piece of a particle board or something like clipboard material with a piece of plexi that is duct tape on there so that you can actually put a map or several maps inside this little sleeve. Okay, and then close the cover so that it provides you with some protection from minor protection from the elements. or falls or what have you, but is easy to read while I'm walking around. I can read, look at this map and see where I'm going without having to open something up. And then it's easy enough to flip open and then put on my strikes and dips or color or whatever I need to do on the map. Okay? So that's my map board that's usually carried around with me in my hands. I also have in here, which is actually the other thing that I should have mentioned that often goes on my belt is, of course, a rock hammer, which is a critical piece of field gear. Water bottles, I'm missing a couple water bottles right now because I was using them for other purposes, but I usually have 2 to 3 liters of water carrying capacity in my field bag. Right now, this is empty. This is just an old sample bag, but this is my lunch bag. One thing that is very important to realize when I go out in the field on any field trip that is supposed to where I'm in, especially in a wilderness setting or in a even slightly isolated setting, I don't ever carry food for one day. I always carry food that will get me through 2 to 3 days if needed. So if for some reason I'm out there and heaven forbid I break my ankle or I'm stuck out there because of weather reasons, or I've been dropped off and a vehicle can't get back to me and I have to spend time out in the field overnight for at least 1 or even 2 nights, I always bring enough food that I can actually survive for more than 1 day. Okay, so the sort of typical thing that students or people that are just getting into this will do, they'll take, a sandwich, a snack, or 2 maybe, enough for the day, thinking that you're going to be, in and out for the day. But I always make sure that I'm backed up with food for more than 1 day. The other thing is you're working a lot, so taking just a minimal amount of food, you never know how much you're going to want to eat. Your food is critical for geology because it gets your brain moving. I typically use a routine where I don't sit and eat a huge lunch every day. I usually just take a snack every hour, hour and a half, small snacks through the day, because it keeps my energy level at a sort of consistent peak. And if my energy level is at a consistent peak, that means my brain is functioning at a consistent level, and I'm able to think about what's going on geologically or just navigationally throughout the day without having the sort of big ups and downs that you get with infrequent larger meals. So that's my lunch bag. What else do I have in here? I have warm jackets. Toss some of this stuff on the field. Slightly windproof, good for underneath other jackets. I have, of course, a sun hat or baseball cap, some kind of hat to keep the sun off my head and face. Okay, I have a warm hat, toque in here. I have another toque. I always have more than one thing. Not only necessarily just for myself, but some items, for example, if I'm working with a partner and they seem to have forgotten a toque or a warm hat, have an extra one. It's always a good thing. I always have at least 1 pair of extra socks. I think there's probably another 1 or 2 in here somewhere. I have sample bags. I've only got a couple in here right now. I just did a big move, and so I used some of my gear for some other things, but I usually have a handful of sample bags, and if you're working for someone or with someone and you're doing specific sampling for geochemistry or geochronology, you'll generally be given those or have access to those types of things, so you just take what you usually require for that. What else do I have in here? I have long underwear, bottoms, probably some long underwear tops in here. Oh, here's a vest, field vest. This one's seen a few better days, probably rock samples poking through here. I don't know if you can see. There's a little bit of holes in there. Nevertheless, still a warm vest. Fleece. Here's the long underwear top. Absolutely critical in the field, toilet paper, of course. What else in here? Duct tape, a roll of duct tape, the better part of a roll of duct tape. This is just sitting inside a Ziploc bag so the sticky duct tape stuff doesn't get all over everything. A bunch of Ziploc bags. Ziploc bags are great for keeping your stuff dry. In the case you need to collect a small sample, your bug juice or sunscreen is exploding everywhere, you want to keep it contained. Ziploc bags, small and large, always a good thing. I've got in here another thermal shirt, thermal t-shirt, and a pair of a Swiss rock hammer, or also known as a set of binoculars. A good set of binoculars, especially if you're working in mountainous regions. A good set of binoculars is very, very useful for a variety of reasons, geologically, navigationally, etc. I've got a couple different kinds of rope, usually just like paracord type style ropes. You know, several dozen feet of each, usually. Now, I usually also will carry, I don't have it in my pack right now, but I usually carry somewhere around, 20 meters of actual climbing rope. I work a lot in mountainous regions and with helicopters and so on and so forth. I've never had to use the climbing rope, but the climbing rope is there for emergency purposes, for when you get yourself into potentially some trouble in terms of needing to maybe scale down a cliff or something like that, which again, it's never a good idea to do that from a safety perspective. I always find an easy way up or down. It's never worth risking my safety for a rock, but one never knows when you get dropped off on a helicopter or moving around, you could need it. Again, never had to use it, but I always have it in my bag. Again, I just did a big move across from Wisconsin to Ottawa recently, and I pulled it out actually to tie down some furniture in the back of the moving truck, so I need to replace that. Here's another set of paracord with a little bag on it. The bag's there so that I can actually throw it over a tree to hang food if needed, or just use the rope as necessary. Having lots of small rope is never a terrible thing. I also have a set of flares and bear bangers. This is a pen style operation. I'll kind of hold this up a little close. So here you can see the little pen. You just pull back a little trigger, okay? And it's got either a bear banger, okay, for bear safety, or different colored flares. You can see white, red, green, different colored flares that also will screw into the top of that. Okay, so some bear safety and personal safety flare setup, always good to have in the fields. And that comes with me everywhere. I'll deal with that later. What else do I have in here? I know back in the back of this thing, I've got some other things. I've got some warm hands, things to keep your hands warm if needed. I've got a bunch of, I got some first aid here. This is pretty beat up, but this is a SAM splint. If you've ever had wilderness first aid or familiar with it, this is a SAM splint. Obviously great for splinting. It's a little beat up, but it still works. I've also got some extra bandage and moleskin material. I'll talk a little bit more about moleskin later, but this is just some spare stuff in the main part of my pack. So that's it in the main part. So in this main compartment right here, I'm just going to throw this up here in the bottom. What do I have in here? I have one of my first aid kits. I usually have two first aid kits about this size. One with, like in this one, with material that I rarely use. Compression bandages, a mask for doing CPR, and a bunch of other things. And then I have a second first aid kit that I have with more material in it that I use typically. Things like bandages, moleskin, although I think I do have extra moleskin and other things in here. But I just went on a family vacation, and I took that extra one with all the sort of typical stuff with me out of the country. So I'll do a separate thing with first aid, but one thing that is really critically important, moleskin for your feet. If you're going to be going out in the field, it's not uncommon to get heaters or blisters on your feet. Moleskin is a wonderful way to prevent that. I can talk about that separately in a different video. What else do I have in here? I've got a set of gaiters. I've got a set of rain pants. I've got a pack cover. Oh, where's my pack cover? Oh, somehow I don't have a pack cover. Oh, I know, I ripped my pack cover, so I need to replace the pack cover. I usually have a pack cover for this. I have a set of warm gloves. Rain jackets. Again, I've worked all over the place. I've worked in the Mojave Desert in the summertime, which is not fun. I walk around with this rain jacket in the Mojave Desert in June, July. Is it going to rain? Absolutely not. But could the weather change and at night could it be cold and I want wind protection? Rain jacket. So I carry this stuff everywhere. Another pair of warm socks, mosquito nets, and a high quality emergency blanket. I'm not going to unfurl this completely. You often find these little silly emergency blankets that are okay, they're not great. This thing is quite large. I'll just kind of extend it out. It's 4 feet by about 8 to 10 feet. It's got this reflective material on one side. It's got bright pink on the other side. I can build a shelter from this or use this for obviously staying warm at any point in time. That's in the main parts. I got some other things. I've got stashed in here, of course, a GPS unit, but I rely exclusively on my map for navigation. GPS batteries wear out. They drop off your belt, they fall out of your pocket, you fall and drop it into a lake, it smashes, okay? If you have no idea of how to use a map, you could be in serious trouble, okay? I rely exclusively on maps for navigation, GPS to mark station locations for the purposes of doing GIS and other geologic reasons, and the occasional cross-check of a place where I am, especially in heavily wooded or other areas, but generally use the map for navigation. GPS has backup. In the top pouch, I'll do the underside of the top pouch here first. It's got some kind of weird things in there, or backup stuff. We got a helicopter, chopper flag. Okay, this is just a big nylon flag. I'm not going to unload it, but it's used for, not for flagging down helicopters, but providing helicopters with a wind direction as they're coming into a landing zone for you. I've got absolute emergency toilet paper that sits in there, another set of absolute emergency toilet paper that never comes out of there. I've got an emergency whistle, always good to have a whistle with you. That sits in the top part of that pouch. And then in this part of the pouch, this part of the pack, top part of the pack, I've got extra batteries for things like GPS units. They're just in a fancy pouch, but there's a Ziploc bag with some bunny-related batteries. Okay, I've got in here a small bag that's got extra pens and pencils and markers, not just for myself, but again, I'm usually teaching in the field, and so I have often run across students who have lost pens or pencils, have run out of lead for their pencils, mechanical pencil. I have spare lead and markers for marking on samples and all kinds of extra writing implements. I think there's a spare pencil swing magnet in there as well. I've got bug dope, bug juice, okay, insect repellent in there. I've got extra stuff. I usually sometimes will put anything extra in there. Lighter, matches. I usually have 2 lighters. I think I'm missing a lighter. I usually have 2 lighters. Waterproof matches in a waterproof case. Headlamp, good headlamp that works. Okay. Never want to be out after dark, but just in case. Actually, my headlamp usually goes in this little pouch. That's what goes in there. What else I have? Some good chapstick, sun protection chapstick, another whistle. All right. I've got extra rulers. Again, this is usually for students, but nevertheless, we're in there. I've got a multi-tool. Okay, Leatherman Wave multi-tool. I used to carry it on my belt, but this ripped, so now it stays in my pocket. A multi-tool that's got a nice set of pliers, which are very useful, a bunch of different screwdrivers and so on and so forth that are okay, but that also has a good knife, okay, as well as a serrated knife, which is always awesome. And also, it can be important, a little tiny saw if needed for twigs and trees if you need to start a fire. Good Swiss Army knife or multi-tool is a very, very important thing to have in your pack. Another set of chapstick and a comb. plastic comb. You might be wondering, why are you carrying around a plastic comb? Not for grooming purposes. I don't ever use this on my hair, but I work in the desert quite a bit, and this is a fantastic thing to pull out cactus needles. Okay, a fine-tooth comb is a great tool to pull out cactus needles versus using a pair of tweezers or something. This just rips them all out at once. What else am I missing? I'm missing, oh, my hand lens. My hand lens I've just got usually carried around in my pack, but I've been using it in the teaching lab, so I have my hand lens that's usually around my neck. So that is most of everything that I carry on a daily basis in my pack, or again, I have my field belt. You'll see on your field gear list every single thing that is in this bag, as well. There's also some other things on your list, but again, I always have, one thing I'm missing out of here, and I know that I just grabbed it for my family vacation, was sunscreen. Okay, and I'm usually wearing sunglasses. I don't keep them in my bag, but sunscreen and sunglasses are also something that you want to have in your pack or on your person when you're doing geology. So, and again, my sunglasses actually have safety glass in them. If you're going to be working, taking a lot of samples, you want to have some safety glasses. Mine, I've actually inserted some safety glass in the lenses for that purpose, so I don't have to carry around two things. So, that's basically it. I'm pretty much prepared to do geology at any point in time. If somebody asks me, hey, you want to go on a geology field trip, I can literally be ready to go after filling up some water bottles and putting some food in my bag. Because all of this stuff stays in this bag at all times, and it goes with me every single day in the field. Okay? Whether I'm on a day trip on a bus in Ottawa, or whether I'm in the high Sierra or in the coast mountains of British Columbia or wherever, it is what I take. So hopefully this gave you some insight into what you should carry. Again, some of the stuff is a little bit excessive for some of you just starting out, but this is what, if you're getting into this field and are going to be spending time in the field, most of this stuff is useful to have in your field bag. Thanks for watching, and take it easy.